Hey y'all, Data Guy here. And today I have a video for you where I just want to go into and talk about the role of a data engineer within an organization. It's something that you really don't get a good sense for typically until you are actually doing the job of a data engineer. And it's also one of the most important things to kind of understand before you go into a job, because if you like the way that data engineers interact with the rest of the business, even if you love the actual day to day of being a data engineer, you're probably going to get pissed off at one point or another because you have to deal with kind of friction. Oh, I got to report to finance. I got to deal with these requests from the ops team. I need to help these data analysts out. Knowing your role within an organization can really help you understand, hey, this is what I'm going to be expected to do. This is what my day-to-day is really going to look like, despite what the job description might say. And that's really because data engineers at this stage of the world are responsible for they're designing, they're constructing, installing, testing, maintaining the entire life cycle of data management and data processing. So your job is making sure data is accessible to all these different teams, and there's a couple different ways that can work out. There's a few different ways that you can kind of optimize and plan for how you want to interact with other people within the organization. So what I'm going to do is just give you a playbook for understanding, hey, these are kind of the two main paradigms of how data teams interact with the organization. And then I'm going to talk about how for each slice of that organization, whether it's the data science team, other technical roles, your DevOps team, all the way down to business leadership, and what you can typically expect that interaction to look like. So without further ado, let's get into it. So first, I want to talk with a couple of data team structures. So the first and kind of most common data team structure is you have one data engineering team that is just working on ingesting all your data into a data warehouse, in some massive data mart, and then providing that data out to your various reliant systems. So, your sales team, your finance team, all different teams within their organizations, they have a set of data that they need. Data engineering team relies on serving that from the centralized data warehouse into that data mart, and then also making sure that it makes its way into that downstream dashboard, analytics tool, whatever that data is actually being used for in the end of the day. And then the kind of other end of that scale is that you actually have completely embedded data engineers. So instead of having one data engineering team, the sales team has a dedicated data engineer that works on all these pipelines relevant to helping the sales team out. There is a machine learning data engineer, and that data engineer is strictly working with the machine learning team, making sure they have the right data available. Your data engineering team itself is kind of less core. You're not going to have a big team that you're working with all the time. Instead, you're going to be working really closely on that narrow slice of the business that you're supporting. And then in between these two paradigms, you have the hybrid model. And that's where you have a team that you're developing a core data warehouse, you have kind of core data initiatives, but then each member in your team has a specialty. So, while the machine learning engineer, let's say, might be specializing and helping out the machine learning team, they're also lending a hand in making sure, hey, all of this core data is accessible, working on team-wide projects to, build out things like global data warehouses for the business. Now, within those team operating paradigms, there's also the paradigm, or two different ways that data engineers are facing the rest of the organization. So there are internal facing data engineers, and that's typically what you think of when you look at that centralized model. You have a data engineer who is just dedicated to helping out internal teams, giving them the data they need. But then there are external facing data engineers who are basically working on client-facing projects, integrating external data sources, making sure that the application and the data from that application is both being consumed properly by the business, then you're also serving the right data to your users. And so in terms of how it shifts between the day-to-day, internal-facing data engineers are typically working just strictly within the organization to support, again, your various departments and teams. And so your primary responsibility is just ensuring that internal data pipelines, data warehouses, and data lakes are functioning optimally. And typically, you'll be mainly collaborating with data scientists, data analysts, and then any other stakeholders that are working with data to understand data needs and then provide the necessary infrastructure to support those data needs. And so an example of this would be things like, hey, you might be working on optimizing query performance for business intelligence tools, or ensuring data quality, or implementing data governance policies. But in general, your focus is on improving internal processes and ensuring that data flows seamlessly within the organization. Now, on the other hand, you have external-facing data engineers. You're typically going to be working on, again, client-facing projects, working with external partners, and you're going to be mainly responsible for integrating new external data sources, ensuring data compatibility with new systems you might be bringing on, and then dealing with things like data security and compliance issues. And so these engineers might be working on things like creating APIs that allow you to share data with partners, or integrating third-party data services, or building data products that are then sold to clients. And your role here will require a really strong understanding of external data ecosystems, data privacy regulations, and the ability to manage relationships with those external stakeholders as well. So more of the soft skills are necessary here. So now that I've talked about kind of the different paradigms and how a data engineer might, fit into an organization, I want to talk about how you're going to work with the other technical roles of an organization. So people like data scientists, data analysts, software engineers, and DevOps engineers. And really, each of these roles has very distinct responsibilities, and knowing how to collaborate and serve each of these different kind of business units, or not business units, but different personas, is really key to a successful data strategy. So data scientists, they're focusing on developing machine learning models, statistical analyses, deriving insights from data. So data engineers are really going to be tasked with providing the necessary infrastructure, such as clean, reliable data pipelines and scalable storage solutions that allow data scientists to have all the tools they need to focus on their core tasks of actually analyzing the raw data. And so for them, you're going to want to make sure that your data is arriving in the right format, it's timely, it's of high quality, and you also have a good understanding of what the data's end purpose is actually going to be used for. Because that'll help you inform, hey, this is what's necessary in the data, this is what's not, and you can do some kind of pre-cleaning before it makes it to the data scientist. Now, next, data analysts. Data analysts, they're responsible for interpreting data, generating reports to support business decisions, and so data engineers typically will be providing them with the tools and data sets they need to perform those analyses. And this is going to be doing things like creating efficient data pipelines, maintaining data warehouses, and then also ensuring data integrity so that when they're presenting those reports to the C-suite, those reports aren't built on faulty data. Third, we have software engineers. So software engineers often work on developing applications that generate or consume data. And so data engineers here will be collaborating with software engineers to ensure that data flows seamlessly between those applications and data storage systems. This can involve things like creating APIs, designing data schemas, and ensuring data consistency across different systems to make sure that data can be consumed and used properly across those systems. Now, fourth and finally, DevOps engineers. So DevOps engineers are typically going to be focusing on the development and maintenance of applications and infrastructure, and so data engineers will be working with DevOps to automate their data pipelines, to make sure they have the scalability actually needed to run their data pipelines, ensure that system reliability, and then manage those resources effectively. So with DevOps, it's less of a push-pull relationship and more collaborative, because you need their collaboration with DevOps to ensure that your data systems are scalable, secure, and performant. And so really, that's how data engineers should be interacting with most of those technical roles. So in terms of your interactions with business leadership, I think I found this this little pyramid that it really crystallizes how you should see your role, and that is bringing the disorganized and messy reality of data and kind of the abstract nature of it into a contextualized format so that your C-suite, management, everyone above you can make effective use of it. And you can view yourself as bridging the gap between those technical teams on the software engineering side and business leadership. You're providing the infrastructure, the tools needed to transform that raw data into actionable insights, which are crucial for strategic decision making and making sure your business stays on the right track. And so your business leaders are really going to be relying on your data engineers to ensure that organizations' data assets are well managed and that data-driven strategies can be implemented effectively. So having a solid foundation so that when you want to go on these digital transformation initiatives, you don't have to scramble and refactor everything just to get up to snuff with the latest standards. It's about making sure that you have the ability to go in any direction that the business requires. And then also, when the business requires you to go somewhere, data engineers have to communicate the technical requirements and limitations of data systems to business leaders, because that can help them understand the potential, but also the constraints of their data assets. Make sure that their visions are grounded in a reality that actually includes the data that you have access to and that you can efficiently make use of. And then finally, just on a career security thing, make sure you're aligning your work with your organization's strategic goals. So prioritize projects that have the highest business impact, ensure compliance with data regulations, and just make sure that resources are managed really efficiently. And then a great way to do this, stay abreast of the latest technological advances and best practices in data engineering, so that you can be kind of the voice of reason within your company to say, hey, this is what we should be doing, this is what other leaders in our industry are doing, so you can provide innovative strategies that can help drive the growth of your business. But that's really all I have for you today. So, in summary, data engineers, they're integral to the success of any data-driven organization. Make sure that data is accessible, reliable, and secure, and enable informed decision-making and strategic planning. And so by kind of when you're looking at a data engineer role within an organization, understanding how that organization looks at data engineers, what that specific data engineering role entails. Is it really specialized to supporting a single team? Are you centralized? Are you internal or external facing? And then use the toolkit here of how you should be interacting with the other people within the organization to make sure that you're making the biggest impact as a data engineer. So I hope you have a great rest of your day. Data Guy out.